welcome back to another video on my channel. Today I'm back with another cryptid video, and I feel like I haven't done one of these in quite a while, so I'm really looking forward to sharing today's cryptid with you guys today. Also, if I flip like angles in this video, I'm trying to keep the same angle with the camera, but it's kind of hard when I set it up differently every single time, so I don't really know what's happening, but hopefully this angle's alright. But anyways, with that all being said, let's get right into today's video. Today we're going to be talking about Momo, and that might confuse you a little bit because there was this like viral scary story game type of thing that was going on like recently that was called Momo. The girl in that was called Momo, and she was like convincing kids to do weird things, something like that. I'm not really educated on what that is, but that is not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about the cryptid Momo, which is also known as the Missouri Monster. For the purpose of today's video, I'm going to be referring to this cryptid as Momo just because it is shorter, it isn't a mouthful, and it's just easier to say throughout the video. But anyways, this cryptid is said to be similar to that of Bigfoot, and it was seen all over the place in the summer of 1972 in Louisiana, Missouri. Now again, this creature was spotted all over the place in the summer of 1972 in Missouri, but it was first spotted by 3 children. These 3 children were 2 boys and their younger sister. They had been playing at like the far back area of their property. I guess they lived on like a farm, and at the back area it was close to a forest. So they were playing just on the outskirts of this forest when all of a sudden they noticed an extremely foul odor. And that is when they kind of looked to where the odor seemed to have been coming from, and that is when they spotted this absolutely horrifying creature. They described this creature as being about 7 feet tall and being covered in thick black fur. The fur on this creature's face hung so long that you couldn't see any of its facial features except for the glow of its very large orange eyes. The kids also described this creature as having a very large pumpkin-like shaped head, and they said that when they spotted this creature, it was carrying a dead dog in its grasps. The children were absolutely terrified, and they sprinted back to their home while they told their mother about this absolutely horrible thing that they had just witnessed. And while they were telling their mom about this, that is when their father had walked into the home, and he kind of got wind of what his kids had seen. So he then walked back to the back of the property where the kids had seen this creature to kind of see if he could catch a glimpse of it himself. And that is when he saw these very large footprints covering the property that he couldn't really explain. They didn't look like any other creature's footprints. And that is when he kind of started to take his kids' reports a little bit more seriously. The news of what the children had seen on their property that way quickly spread, and more people started to come forward saying that they had also seen a creature similar to that the children had seen all over this little area. It was often stated that this creature was mostly seen walking up and down near the Mississippi River. It was always followed by that foul smell, and this was just becoming an issue for that entire community. The main reason that this was an issue was because law enforcement believed that the townspeople were getting really worked up and really nervous, and he thought that because of this, many of the people who lived in that neighborhood would probably head out in hopes of hunting down this terrifying creature and could possibly result in them hurting another resident of that area. So this became quite an issue for the people who lived in that area in Missouri. Something else that I just want to note before moving forward into this case, and I do just want to say that I am not mocking anybody in any sense, but the newspaper articles and stuff that were writing about people's encounters with the Missouri Monster were referring to it as Momo, kind of mocking those who had come forward saying that they had encounters with this creature. And I did see that on several sites. I'm not mocking anybody, it's just easier to say. And online, when you look up Momo, that game does come up, but this is also one of the next things that pops up quite frequently underneath that kind of name. So I do think that probably with all the years that have passed, it is more like acceptable to refer to this creature as Momo. So let's now get into the scary stuff and the encounters that these people had had with this creature. So it was July 14th when a man by the name of Edgar Harrison was doing some kind of religious ceremony within his home. I'm not sure if his entire family was involved, but that was definitely what he was doing at the time. And it was the very early hours of the morning into the late hours of the evening on that particular day when he was doing this, which wasn't something that was out of the ordinary for him. He would often get up in the middle of the night or very early in the morning and do some kind of religious ceremony. But while he was doing this, he started to hear very strange noises coming from a hill that was nearby his house that had a metal reservoir on it. It was very frequent that young children would go up to this reservoir and they would throw rocks into it, and it kind of sounded like something similar to that. However, again, it was a really weird hour, so the likelihood that it was a child up there doing something like that was very, very unlikely. Something that I should have mentioned but I didn't was that Edgar was out of the house at this time, kind of cleaning up his ceremony or whatever he was doing. And after noticing these strange noises, that is when he started to pay extra close attention to the sounds because he was pretty interested in what they were. While he was listening, that is when he heard one in particularly piercing kind of like flick of what sounded like something hitting the metal of the reservoir, and then he heard a very, very loud growl of an animal. These sounds together were so loud that Edgar's family, who was within the home, had come outside to see what was going on because they could even hear it from inside of the house. These sounds that were coming from Malzoff Hill just continued to increase in noise and sound, and Edgar's family was quite scared, so they were now rushing him to finish whatever he was doing so that they could load up the car and get out of the area. He did exactly that. He put his entire family into the car and they started to drive to a restaurant that they owned where they would, I guess, like kind of hide out until this was all over because his family was extremely freaked out. Once they got into the vehicle, they started to drive down Allen Road, and that is when they saw a group of people walking towards them. They thought that this especially was strange because, again, it was a really weird hour between like 12 to like 5 a.m. and there was a very large people just walking down the street towards Malzoff Hill. Once they got closer to these people, that is when they noticed that it was a group of about 40 people all together, and they were carrying guns, pitchforks, weapons, like it was an entire mob walking towards this hill. And Edgar kind of pulled over and asked what they were doing, and they said that they were going to try and see what exactly was up there because that wasn't the first time that this had happened. People had been seeing this creature absolutely everywhere. They'd been hearing those noises at all hours of the night, and they had had enough. The town had been pretty much living in a complete state of fear since the reported sightings started coming in of seeing this creature absolutely everywhere, and this group of 40 people just decided that they were going to put their foot down and go out and try and catch this creature, which was what exactly the police had feared. Anyways, these people got up to the reservoir and they searched around and they looked, but they didn't find anything. They found no signs of this creature. There was no evidence that the creature was ever there besides the noises that they had all heard coming from the reservoir, and that wouldn't have had any other explanation, so that is why they pretty much chalked this event up to that of Momo. Once the mob had kind of died down, a small group of people then headed back up to the reservoir to search the area to see if they could maybe find something that somebody else hadn't. Once they got up to this area near the metal reservoir, there was like this abandoned building. I'm not sure if it was a house, but it definitely was like a shed or something like that. And the group had been searching around there, but they didn't really see much of anything. However, they described this entire area as just having an absolutely foul odor that they described as smelling like some kind of a weird, nasty, garbage-like scent, which is exactly what the children who had first seen Momo described the creature as smelling like. Just to make things that much stranger, this scent also lingered over the entire neighborhood when all of those noises were happening at the reservoir, which is how they kind of started to assume that this smell was chalked up to that unknown creature. The reason that Edgar Harrison and his family are so important in this case is because it was strongly believed that this creature had been living at the top of Malzoff Hill. And Edgar's home was kind of like on the up of that hill, so he was living very, very, very closer than anybody else to where this creature would be. So after this kind of started to get more publicized, the police really got involved in this case, and the head chief of police at that time kind of organized this thing that he called the monster hunt, and it was just a few people who would kind of keep watch for this creature. They would go up the hill and kind of search the area in hopes of finding it, and there were more reports coming in at this time of getting that foul smell all over the place. People were reporting seeing this creature everywhere, and it was just really, really freaking the people out. So finally, this was when the police decided that it was time to get involved. This monster hunt group had headed up Malzoff Hill, and they kind of surrounded the area and just searched in hopes of finding anything to kind of concretely prove that this creature actually existed. However, while they were up there, it wasn't said that they found much of anything. But the townspeople, or the people who lived in that neighborhood, did report that the sounds of that creature and the foul smell that came along with that creature skyrocketed at the point when the police department and whatnot were at the top of the hill, almost kind of leading people to believe that the creature knew or saw the group coming, and because of that it fled the hill and was now in the neighborhood rather than hiding out. As time went on and people from Missouri started to hear about this creature and that search group started to go out more frequently, the search group began to grow. It started just with about 5 or 6 people, and by July 20th, just a few days after it had been formed, the amount of people in the search group had gone up significantly, now making it about 15 to 20 people altogether. They went out often to this hill, they searched the area, looking for absolutely, again, any sign of this creature. On July 20th, this very large group of people searched the bottom of Malzoff Hill, including all of Edgar's property and the top of the hill as well. But this time they did find a few things. On Edgar's property, they had found multiple smushed bushes as if something had been walking on top of them, and they found huge footprints that were about 10 inches long, which isn't something that you can easily explain away. But on top of that, they also found handprints in this really hard, dry soil, which after people came to study this, they described this as being not something that would normally happen. Because the soil was so dried up and hard, you would have to put an immense amount of pressure onto the soil to leave a handprint for, I guess, like me or you, or even like a larger human being. And it just seemed like whatever this creature was that had left the handprint in the soil must have weighed a lot, because it would have taken a lot of weight for the creature to have been able to have left a handprint in the soil that was so dried up. What kind of sucks for this search group though, and what also sucks a lot for Edgar Harris, is that he and the group had never seen the creature. They strongly believed that the creature existed, obviously, because there was a million reports of it coming in, and there was signs all over the property that the creature had been there, but they had never seen the creature with their own eyes. The next time that this creature was spotted was on July 21st, when a man by the name of Ellis was sitting on his front porch in the very, very late hours of the evening. He lived at the end of Green River Road, and he was sitting on his front porch just relaxing, and his dog had been outside with him and was kind of laying at his feet, when all of a sudden his dog sat up and started to growl into the darkness. Ellis thought this was very weird, and so he grabbed his flashlight that he had sitting beside him on the porch and kind of shined it in the direction that the dog was growling in, and that is when, to his horror, he saw this huge creature. He said the creature was covered in this black hair that was almost coal covered, but he couldn't describe what exactly this creature's face looked like, because the hair from the top of the creature's head hung all the way down to the creature's chest. Edgar said that as soon as he shined the flashlight onto this creature, the creature turned around and took off running, and then Ellis and the dog just kind of went inside because they did not want to mess with that. Ellis, however, never reported this to the police. He did, however, tell his friends, and so news of this spread pretty quickly, and it did eventually make it to the police department, but he himself did not phone the police, which was kind of different because everybody in Missouri was calling the police at that time, even if they smelled something foul, because they didn't want to come into contact with this creature. But this guy actually came in contact with the creature and just decided not to call the police, so I just thought that was kind of funny. News of this creature had spread quite quickly, and now people were coming to Missouri from all over the place in hopes of catching even a glimpse of this creature. Edgar's family was so horrified by this creature, scared that it was going to come into the home, that they had temporarily moved out, all of them except Edgar, who remained there, and he had turned his home into kind of like a Momo focal point. This was an area where anybody who had any information on the creature would call. They would have meetings within the home, everything like that. Edgar had taken a temporary leave of absence from his job to just kind of search for the creature, and him and a few other people had spent 21 days camping out at the bottom of this hill in hopes of seeing Momo, but they never did. However, they did see signs of the creature, and they do claim that they smelled the creature quite frequently, kind of leading them to believe that the creature was in the area, but they themselves, again, had never seen him or it. This kind of thing went on for quite a while and happened quite frequently, with people calling in to say that they had this foul odor surrounding their home and they were scared that the creature was going to just come in, or that they had found strange footprints on their property and things like that. People were just living in absolute fear. Everybody was terrified, but this would all kind of come to an end in the early hours of the morning of August 3rd, 1972. A couple had been asleep inside of their home, which was located on a farm just northwest of town, when they heard a very high-pitched growling noise coming from their yard. They both got out of bed and ran outside to see what exactly this noise could be, but once they got there, whatever this creature was had completely vacated the property. But something strange was left behind. In the very center of their field were 4 footprints. Now, think about that for a second. Just 4. There were none coming, none going. There was no proof of how the creature had gotten there to make the 4 prints, and the yard was pretty muddy, so for the creature to have gotten there, you would have thought that there would have been footprints leading to the spot and from the spot. However, there was only 4, making it appear as if the creature had just somehow appeared there. There was nothing leading to this spot, there was nothing leading from the spot, and it just completely seemed like it defined all laws of gravity and like everything like that, because they just appeared there. There was nothing to explain how they got there. These footprints were about 20 inches, so they were very, very long, and the couple knew that they probably came from this Momo creature that people had been seeing all over town. So they went to the house and they called their hunter friend, who came to the property, and he took concrete prints of these creatures' footprints. But after that, that is really where it ended. Nobody had ever smelled the creature, saw evidence of the creature ever again. So just as abruptly as this creature started to appear in Missouri, it just completely vanished. Just like in many cryptid cases, many people believed that this was nothing more than a hoax, or people were going through mass hysteria, and because so many people believed that this creature was out there, their mind was playing tricks on them into thinking that they had actually seen it. But thousands of people believed that this creature really was stalking Missouri. However, nobody is quite sure where it came from or what it was. But that's really all that I have for you in today's video. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.